When I wanted a 35mm camera, I remember them being really expensive, especially the good quality Japanese cameras. The cameras which were slightly more affordable were the Russian cameras, and in date I'm talking 1979-1980, when I was about 16 and I was dying to get a 35mm camera. I didn't at that stage buy a Zenit E, but I remember friends of mine did, and they were a very common camera because I think the new price was about £62 compared to £110 for Pentax K at that time. The Zenit camera, its heritage is Leica based. It was a camera manufactured by the Russians, but very much based on the Leica. And the Zenit developed into the Zenit. The Russian engineers cleverly put a pentaprism on. However, you see some similarities with the Zeiss camera. You have the celium meter is a light meter, but not through the lens light meter. You take your reading by adjusting the needle here you adjust it to, there's a gauge, and you meet the gauge with the lever, and then you can read off from your aperture or from your shutter speed, depending which one you want to take from. So if on here, if I look at 1/60th of a second, I'm at 5.6. So I then set 5.6 on the lens. I'll try to show that a little bit closer. I'm not quite sure how we'll get there. Let's just have a look. So you set your needle there. So if I point it, set it, and then I read off here. Bit of a pain changing the shutter speed on here because you have to lift the dial up to move it, and you have to make sure you've done that after you round the film on. So wind the film on, then you can move the shutter speed. The lenses, people quite often like these lenses. They are the Helios 44 lens, and you quite often with the Helios lens get an interesting bokeh effect. That is at your depth of field. If you're at low f-stop like f2, you get nice out of focus effects. A bit of a pain, I think, of this camera is when you've taken your photograph round on, get to the end of the film. To get the film back, you've got to press this button here, and from my memory, press that, and you have to wind back here on this lever here, and that can be quite a pain because it just seems to take a long time. They are quite robust cameras, however, because of the focal plane shutter, they are inclined to need servicing, and you can see that on this camera here the shutter isn't, the second curtain isn't quite returning, so the shutter isn't working. So I can't demonstrate this camera how I would do normally because it's not working. So that is something you've got to be very careful of when buying a Zenit. There's a lot of Zeniths about. They can be good fun, they can be interesting to use. What I haven't mentioned is how useful the lenses are, because the lens is the Pentax M42, which is the screw thread, and there's tons of those lenses about, and especially if you want to try some close-up photography, the extension tubes for the Pentax M42 are always quite cheap, and again you can easily buy them on eBay. So if you want to do some close-up photography, this is the camera to have a go at with, I think. As I said, be careful of shutters. Viewfinders can be a little bit dodgy as well, because the glue they used in the viewfinder sometimes seems to degrade and you get a line in the viewfinder. However, if you get a working model, they can be good fun. Good luck.